Now, let's switch to our queens of wall carry, Nina and Julia. What these characters do best is take you from wall to wall, which might make you wonder, then why give them a wall drive to help you push through the wall if they do it so well already? Well, just like Paul's Super Extra Super Death Fist, these wall bouncers have a few tricks up their sleeve. Don't forget about the scaling, these ladies also do a lot of hits to take you to the wall. What this means for Nina in the long run is that if your combo is full of very tiny hits even though you're in rage, you're not going to be getting a lot of damage despite reaching the wall. However, since her rage drive does 50 damage all on its own, no clean hit required, she gets that extra chance of milking out even more damage from your opponent. Actually, let's take a quick minute to talk about just how obnoxious this rage drive of Nina's is. It's 20 frames slow, but it goes over lows, it does 50 damage, and it's the most plus rage drive in the game. This wall push, by the way, adds about 6 frames of block advantage and only goes up the further you are away from the wall. Did I mention that it does 50 damage without even needing a clean hit? If you manage to get this to hit grounded, which is not that difficult, it does 30 damage. 3-0. Just look at some of this damage off of such few hits. What is it with the blondes in this game? Why do they all hit like tanks? Nina, Paul, Geese, Chloe, I mean, what? Lily? Well, anyway, this is nuts. Okay, dial it back down, Michael. Now, our queen of season 2, Julia Chang, does not suffer the same fate as Nina. She's always doing a lot of damage, both in the open, even more damage at the wall, plus she has a rage drive to add even more damage onto that. To balance this somewhat, Namco gave Julia a 2-hitting rage drive in which you'd have to be very clever about how you're going to make sure you get that wallsplat using her. Because her combos tend to be very lengthy and because you want to get only the last hit of the rage drive to resplat, you have to be very clever as to how you're going to do it and let it leave you close enough to follow up with a wall combo. A very important point to note is that if you break the balcony with a move before your opponent has had the chance to leave the ground, you will not be able to get the resplat even at the bottom floor. Just look at her go. Now, there are a plethora of moves that you can use to mitigate this setback, and Julia is one of the characters that happens to have so many of them at once. Hell sweeps, wall bounces, and counter hit launchers are some of the best ways in which you can break the balcony and have your opponent's feet leave the ground. Remember the rule of 2 wall hits before you can initiate wall slump? It is very important to remember that the hit itself that breaks the wall or the balcony does not take away from the number of wall hits you can do at the bottom floor. What an angel. Let's go through the following sequence together and help me calculate the number of wall hits I'll be able to do at the bottom. That's the launcher. Her feet have left the ground, as you can see. This is the move that we use to get her to the wall. Pay close attention to where her head and feet are when she hits the wall, because that's very important. Let's unpack that sequence because a lot just happened. This is a grounded hit. You can tell by how she's lying almost flat on the ground and that the scaling is at 60%. Grounded hits are not wall hits and therefore do not take away from the number of wall hits you're allowed to do in your combo. That was a wall hit, plain and simple. And that was a balcony break. We mentioned that those don't add to the wall hits either. Go Julia, you got this, you got this. That was a wall drive hit. Keep in mind that even if Chloe had been against the wall when it connected, it still would not have taken away from the number of wall hits possible. Now if you've been following carefully, you would realize that we've only used one wall hit for that entire combo. However, when it comes to the wall combo, it may be hard to see from here, but she does slump as if we have used 2 wall hits. But why? We were so careful. The reason for that comes back to this situation. When the opponent hits the wall with their head basically touching the ground, this is called a low wall splat. This type of wall splat only allows you one wall hit before you can begin wall slump. Now you may be wondering, Michael, what does all this have to do with the wall drives? You're going off track as usual. You're always digressing. This is why I don't even click subscribe. I just watch your videos and I don't follow. This is exactly why. First of all, only mom calls me that. Second of all, how dare you? And third, you're right. But listen, if you plan to use the wall drives properly, you have to know how many wall hits you are allowed in order to maximize its potential. Remember that wall drives do not reset the number of wall hits you're allowed to do. Luckily for Julia, which is something you should get used to saying, she has a lot of low wall splats, but because of the nature of her wall combos, she really only needs one hit. She never really fully needs 2 hits. Remember this 1+2 we talked about earlier as a grounded hit? Even if it doesn't hit as a grounded hit and still part of the combo, since it doesn't knock the opponent against the wall, it does not add to the wall hits. She's so lucky, isn't she? To wrap it up with Julia, another way of identifying a low wall splat is if you were very close to the wall when you tried to lift them into it, or the move you did has very bad lift. Let's dial it back a bit and go to a more standard character with a more standard wall drive. Fang's Rage Drive is an enhanced version of his Iron Fortress in